Hey everybody, and welcome back. Right, well, again, not much happening this week. Spring, I think, has finally arrived. I've been out on the trials bike a couple of times. No snow, ponds full of tadpoles, so things are going well. You may notice that I couldn't resist it. I popped the silencer on the polisher. It's not quite finished. You might notice that the light's shining on those because they're edges, but the edges are polished up. These panels still are. You can just see the underlying marks in there. But anyway, it's all done. I also did this top bracket. Speaking of brackets, Aid at A&G Engineering, whom if you don't watch his channel, you should do, because Aid makes my machining look as if I've done it with a hammer and chisel. He mentioned about, and I've had this mentioned before, rubber mounting this. So, I don't like saying I can only go on previous experience here. There you go again. I've found that short, stiff mountings. Any Pink Floyd fans? Short, sharp shove. But small, stiff mountings with everything rigidly mounted. I've never had a silencer or an oil tank crack at the weld. But for those of you in trials, if you think about TY250s and some of the early Montesas that had the silencers on rubber mountings, you very rarely see them with the original mountings because they've all cracked, either broken off the frame or broken off the silencer. So I think, touch wood, that sort of holding everything rigidly, they don't get the chance to shake, to fracture things. Now, petrol tanks are a different matter because they're so much longer, they've got longer panels, they can be more resonant. I think it's just, as I say, this is all short, there's bends in it, same with the oil tank. It's a very rigid structure, and that's it, never had a problem, so I'll just keep on keeping on as I have been. Alright, so what else? Nothing else whatsoever, so we're going to go around the other side of the bike because we've got a lot of head scratching to do to fit this oil tank in. So let's go and have a look at that. Oh, there was one other thing, a comment. Someone mentioned, why didn't I mount the coil up here on the other side of this thing? Well, as you can see, there's no space at all. This fills up the available space there, so I couldn't get it in. Alright. Right, well, so here is where we're going to fit the oil tank. Now, as I mentioned, I want to get about 1.5 litres. Well, I want a minimum 1.5 litres. On the BMs, based on the B25, I don't have this seat pillar, of course. I have another tube up there. So I have the whole of this space because also on this side I would have the exhaust. So although the exhaust pipe would go through here, the exhaust isn't in this space at all. So that's a couple of constraints. So how much space do we have? Well, we can go back to here, which is basically just the back side of this tube. We can go right up to here where the wheel's going to go. The wheel doesn't even come up to here, so anything, obviously this clears, so anything in there is fine. We can come right out to this tube and we can come round a little bit like the silencer does. Now, just the same with the silencer, I want to keep this plane clear. So in other words, I don't want the oil tank sticking out at all. So I don't want it level with this tube and going round or anything because my leg's going to be here. I want this slim. So we're really restricting ourselves. Then there are two more things on top of that. One is at the top here. We can't take it all the way at the top because we've got to have enough space to get a filler neck in and the cap. So it's only going to be able to come to about here. So we've got 3/4 there, which say is enough for the top of the cap and then we need it to fit in an inch so we can get an O-ring on, and it'll be a nice firm seal. So we've got to come down here about an inch. Let me get a ruler. So we're coming down about an inch, right? So we're going to be to there. That's one restriction. Now at the bottom, we've got to be able to get pipes. Now normally on an oil tank, the feed pipe would be on the bottom, but there's no real need for it to be on the bottom. It could be on the side at the bottom, right? So, you know, it's only a 1/4 inch pipe, so at the most when you drained it, it would leave a 1/4 inch of oil in. Nothing big, and of course it wouldn't bother the flow at all down at the engine because it's going to be full. So we can do that, we can make that come out, which can get us lower down, but that's still going to require a fair bit of thought. Now on the return side, again, I'm really lucky with the B25s because the pipes at the bottom here, it has a takeoff. Can you see me here? No, you can't. I'm doing it again to you, sorry. It has a takeoff on the return pipe down here to feed the rockers. But on the Triumphs, the return pipe comes up, it's actually on the back side of the oil tank, and where it goes in to the back of the oil tank, that's where that small diameter takeoff goes to feed the rockers. So I don't want an external pipe. I'm going to put the pipe inside, the same as I do on the BSA trials bikes. So we're going to have the T-piece before it goes into the tank. And actually that's what I did with Bob's 350. But again, we didn't have this. There was a lot more space underneath to work on tubes. Didn't have this plate either. So that's going to take a little bit of thinking. I say we can have it coming out the bottom, but I don't want it too vulnerable. So I've got a couple of ideas about that. Now one other idea I've had is, you may remember when I did the C15, the rear mudguard was too long. So I was left with a piece of this. So I'm thinking of making that the back of the oil tank. It can go like that. Because I've already got that curve and I've already got this curve. Because don't forget, the other thing about the oil tank is it's got to be the missing part of the mudguard. So I could make that like that, and that's about perfect. I cut it here to give myself, how much space can I get in there? See, I can get an inch inside there coming out here. So we need 1.5 litres. Now that's not going to be a problem, I don't think. This here is, well, it's a US quote. Don't forget volumetric. Actually, for any of you watching in the US who have British bikes, don't go the capacities by the number of pints, because the British manuals will have British pints and they're considerably larger than the US pints, but it'll always give you it in cc's, so go by the cc's, right? So this is a US quote up to about here, which is just under a litre, 946 cc's. So as you can see, that fits in there. There's more space from the side here. We can take it down there. As I say, it's actually only up to there, so you could almost say that will go up to about there. So there's space at the bottom, there's space here. I did a couple of quick sort of breaking this down into some triangular shapes, and we'll get 1.5 litres easily. So we'll get some cardboard. I think what we're going to do is we're going to start with, like we did with the silencer. We did the back because it was more or less out of sight, so I wasn't worried about it, although of course you can see it from this side a bit. But the back is just going to be flat, straight up and down, closest to the silencer but not too close, because of course the oil tank's got to cool the oil as well as anything else. So we can come back to here. So we'll make a back out of cardboard, and we'll make a bottom so we can do this slope piece here. Then I think we'll make the top. That'll show us exactly what we can do with this piece, because it's got, as I say, it's going to angle out slightly and it's going to angle backwards. Alright, so let me go and get some cardboard and we'll start cutting bottom and back and see what they're like. Right, and this is stage one, although actually I've been thinking and doing little drawings, and I've decided, or I've worked out how I can do the inlet and outlet in the bottom. So that is how tall the tank is going to be. About 8 inches, and I've marked there and there where that's going to be there. Now what I've also marked on is basically, actually it wants to be a little further forward of that, because that's where the mud guard's going to go, and that's round about, so there and there. Now what I've also done is I've cut this so that it fits in there. So the next stage for our back is to mark it from there, I don't know if you can see that, from there to there, to produce our curve on the back. So let me do that and then cut it out. Right, well, so there is that. Now this piece is just going to be an oblong. We're going to bring it out. Well, it's not going to be quite an oblong, is it? Because it's going to slope like that. So let me do this bottom piece and a top piece. Yes, that's not going to be, I was thinking it was just going to come out, but it's not, is it? So it's going to be sort of 1.5 inches there and out to there. Be like that. So let me cut one of those and tape it to this and see how it looks. So now we've got the back piece you saw me cut. Got a piece there which slopes, and I've cut a base which is going to come in here so we can have a bit of tank up here. And this actually took some doing, because when I first cut it, it looked so small, and I thought, I'm not going to get the 1.5 litres in there, but I think we'll be alright. I'll put a little bit of tape on the top there to hold it where it should be. And where's the mud guard gone? Well, what was throwing me off slightly was I was measuring it symmetrical, and it isn't. See, that goes further in there. So what I'm going to have to do is cut a bit more of this off here, because that's going to be a flat side. So let's see now, I think, about making this piece. So it needs to be, we've got the bottom, it's going to be inside here, so that needs to be, oh, it's going to go inside that. It says 7 inches long. So let me do that one. Now there it is with a side on. It actually goes like that. So as I say, I've extended it a little bit to the back here. It's strange, you know, but as I look at this, yeah, maybe it's going to hold as much as I thought it would, but right, so what I'm going to do now is box this back in and make a top for it. Then we'll do a little curved piece for the back, or I might just stick the mud guard in. And then I want to do, for those who've seen me do oil tanks before, when I've got the cardboard part made, I'll put like a supermarket bag inside, although you can't get them now, can you? Because that's really thin. And then I fill it up with water, or I pour a measured amount of water in and see how much it holds. So let me do this bit round the edge here and see about making a top, and then we'll come back. Right, well, so here we are with that taped in the back. That's the shape it's going to be. Got a thin plastic bag. Let me put something just here, so hopefully this will be big enough to fill out the entire thing. I've got a feeling it's going to be touch and go how much volume we get in this. I think I was a bit generous with some of my measurements, but anyway, we'll see. Don't think there's a hole in this bag, at least I'm hoping not. Well, that's just over 750 mil or cc's, depending on how you like to put it. And there's another 750. And you can see we're quite a long way down. We're a good 1.5 inches down. And actually what I'm going to do, I was thinking about it, I need headspace. You've got to have, you know, some air in there. You can't just have the oil tank full because you're pumping in and out of it. We're going to have a vent on it, but you need some headspace for turbulence and one thing and another. And when the bike's leaning over, little things like that. So what I'm going to do is actually make this taller, and then the tube that the top's going to go in can actually stick down, because it's not going to go into the oil, it's just going to go into the headspace. So making this taller means I can actually fill this virtually right to the top, which is going to be, I don't know, hang on, let me turn you off. I've got some more water. Just out of interest, you still, oh, I've put another 500 in there. This thing will almost hold 2 litres. And it's not coming out the bottom anywhere, so that's good. So, I didn't think I was that far out when I was sort of doing my little bit of maths. It's bored out slightly, but that's alright. Hang on. So even if I put it in straight, we're alright. Because we're not putting that much in anyway. Right, so let me empty this out, and then we'll look at taking this apart. Now this, with its top, is made up out of 8 pieces. I just checked it back in the frame, and actually I've got enough room to put 3/4 of an inch on the top of that, so that'll be good. I'll have to make up a little piece for there, if that can't be helped. So, it's made up out of 8 pieces, but I prefer not to have to weld 8 pieces together. So what we're going to do is, instead of just cutting this all apart, we're going to look at it and see how many pieces I can cut this to and do some bends. Now, obviously I could make that and that in one and just do a bend there, or I could make that and that in one, but some of these I'd rather have the bends in than others. For instance, I don't really want that to be 2 pieces, so that would just be 1 piece without a bend. But then you see it goes round there and round the back. So do I make that and say that? Because I'll be honest with you, doing 2 bends like that wouldn't be that easy. Certainly couldn't get it in the brake, I don't think, because it would come up too close together. And also I still haven't, I have to be honest, completely got the hang of taking into account the radius of the bend and all that. So I'll tend to bend something and it's not the right size. I mean, it's the right shape, but I'll find them either too big or too small, because I haven't fully understood how the bend radius makes where these parts would be in relationship to that once I put the bend in. So let me give it some thought and I'll cut it apart. Plus I haven't got a lot of alloy left. I think I'm going to make the top part and the bottom part out of 1/8 inch, or it's not 1/8, I think it's maybe 100 thou, 90 or 100 thou, something like that. But it's thicker than the 16th I'll make the rest out of. Because in the top we've got to make a filler cap. So what that's going to be is a tube welded in and then a cap with an O-ring which goes in. Also we're going to have a vent up here somewhere. So making it in a slightly thicker one makes it easier to weld that up. Same with the bottom. I'm going to show you now what I'm thinking about doing for the bottom. Because there isn't a lot of space there, and trying to put bends in the tube, as I say, even though it's only, well, it's 1/4 inch internal, it's like 5/16 or something OD, you're going to have a curve. So at the bottom I don't have a lot of space. So if I had a big curvy piece coming out, that wouldn't work. So let me get the book and we'll do a little drawing. Right then, so what we're going to do is this. As I say, even with the tube we've got, if we did a bend, it would be like that. And I don't really want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to get a piece of solid alloy. Piece of round, actually. Now it would have been nice if I had a 4-jaw chuck, because I could have done this much more easily. But what I'm going to do is turn down this end, get rid of that, get rid of that, to make it my tube size for the oil hose to go on. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put it in the mill. We're basically going to mill it square like that. So instead of that end being round, see, it's going to be squared off. Then to make this piece of tube, we're going to drill into there. So that will then make this piece that sticks out our piece of tube. And then we're going to drill downwards like that. And this piece, this solid squarish piece, is going to be welded onto the bottom. Bottom of the tank is going to be there. So we'll drill through the bottom of the tank. It's starting to look a bit complicated now. To match up, so this will be right on the bottom. That'll go through. We'll have just enough space here to get our hose on and put a clip on, a hose clip on. Right, so that's how we're going to do the feed. And that way, you see, this is only going to be about, at the most, 3/4 of an inch. That bend would be quite large because it's thin wall tube. You'd have to have quite a large radius in it, or else it would just collapse or kink, right? So it'd be at least an inch, probably more, to get a decent sized bend in it. So that's how we're going to do that one. The other one, the return, I haven't decided yet. I don't really want to put a tube on the outside of the tank, and there's not really anywhere to put it. But as I say, on this, if I just made another one of those, somewhere here I'd have to have a T and a smaller diameter T as well to take the small tube that goes up to the rocker feed. But anyway, I don't have any square, but I do have some about inch round, which I can work and then put in the mill and square off. As I say, if I had a 4-jaw chuck, I'm not sure if I can do it in the 3-jaw. I'm not going to mess around and try. If I had a 4-jaw chuck, then I could set this, I could offset it from the center and actually turn it so the tube was there on the edge, and I wouldn't have to do any milling. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. So first of all, let me take this oil tank apart into some reasonable pieces. Right then, so this is how I'm going to do it. I've cut it into 3 pieces. There's one odd piece which will just nicely come out of there, leave me some. So this is the side. So that's going to have a slight bend like that, and then a 90-degree bend there. So I've marked that, see, 90 degree in that bend on this side. And this one I've got to just test it to see which is which. So that just nicely comes out of that piece. And then this one is, where are we? It's the very front that goes against the frame tube, and the back side that goes up against the silencer. So I can just get that out of there as well. Now I've just been playing around. Little experiment. What I did was I marked this up, 2-inch sides, bent it. I didn't quite catch it exactly on the right thing, because what I wanted to find out was which way it went. And what I found is that, actually it's an 1/8, but if that had been right on that line, this would have been a 16th and this would have been a 16th shorter, because that is what that is, 16th. As it is, because I'm slightly off the line, I'm, see that mark there is 2 inches from that line. See, that's 1 7/8. But there it's still on 2 inches. And on the outside, that's 2 inches. And that one is 2 1/8. So it's given me some idea of how it works. So I'm not going to try too many bends. There'll be 2 bends in that, but as I say, one of them's a 90 degree and the other one will just keep trying it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to build up the sides. Leave the back where the mudguard is open for now. Then I'll do the top and the bottom, because we've got to make pieces for them. I'll put the bottom in first, because I'll be able to get at it from here and make sure everything's right. And then when all that's done and I've put the back in, we'll make a top up, and actually when it's done, you see, I can put it on there and make sure I get it the right size. So let me mark these out, cut them, and we'll start seeing if we can do some bends. There are our pieces all cut out. These are all the sides. So there's the back, there's the sort of inside piece that goes up against the tyre, that's the piece that bends at the front, and this one is the big side. And this one I screwed up, because I cut this one first, I got it all cut, and then I remembered I wanted to make this 3/4 of an inch taller. And there was no way I could work it with the alloy I had to make it fit. So what I'm going to do, then I'm going to weld the piece on, and then we'll do the bends. So there you go. I was annoyed. If I'd have had another sheet of alloy, I probably would have just cut one, but I don't have to go down to the metal stockists. Anyway, let me start. Well, I'll weld that on, and then we'll start bending these. So there's the extra 3/4 of an inch welded in. I've dressed it up on that side, so that will polish out nicely. Finish this off and we'll do some bending. So here's the first piece going in. I don't know if I told you, but I bought a new jack for this press, so it's not dribbling oil over everything. Okay, that seems to be right on the line. And this one's a right angle bend. There's our first bit done. So that's the That's the bit that goes up against the seat pillar, and that's the back part, goes up against the silencer. So I'll press on and bend up. So actually there's only one other one to bend, and then we'll see about starting to put some of this together. Right, there's the other one bent with its two bends in it, and I think that's the side. How does this go? That's the bottom, like that, and that goes on there. So that goes on there like that. Can you see that? Yeah, near enough. Okay, so I might just bend it fraction in more, and that will be that done. We can start tacking them together. Right, now this these hose mountings have been giving me a bit of a problem trying to think how to fit them all in. So while my little mind was working, I thought I'd try a little experiment. So what I've done is I put a piece of 1/4" alloy in two of these jaws. I don't know how well you can see from there. I can't really get you at a much better angle, and it is nicely doing it offset. So I'm going to carry on and make the first one of these, which is going to be the outlet that will go on the bottom of the tank. I thought, well, I know how to do the other one. What I'm planning to do is turn up a second one of these, which will be the size for the 1/4" return pipe, then a solid body, and at this end I'm going to turn it down to take the smaller rocker feed hose, and then the rocker feed hole is only 1/8. The ordinary return feed is, well, it's not a feed, is it? The ordinary return line is 1/4" ID. So what I'm going to do is make it so it'll be like it'll have one of these on each end. Then I'm going to drill through all the way through 1/8. Then on the ordinary return side I'm going to drill it through 1/4 to where I'm going to do my hole here, and that way it'll be coming up, the return will be coming up, it'll be going into the tank, and then they'll be off here, the top, so that'll be a T-piece almost vertical. You'll see it better when it's done. Still don't know if it'll work, and I still don't know exactly where I'm going to fit it on the tank, but this one for the bottom I can do now. So let me finish off machining this. As I say, I've got to turn this down to be the right size for the hose to go on, and then drill a 1/4" hole through it. Then we'll part it off, then it goes in the mill and gets squared up so that I can weld it to the bottom. So there's the piece out of the lathe. You can see there how that's worked, so that was fine. Now I'm going to mill a bit off each side, and a bit off the bottom, so that it'll go up nice and flat on the bottom of the oil tank. Where are we? It'll be flat on the bottom of the oil tank like that, making sure I have enough room to get the hose and a hose clip on. I've drilled this to about there, so when we've got the sides all squared and it's in the mill, we'll go down to meet that hole, and I'm going to do this with a 1/4" end mill, the drill type end mill with the little hollow end. I had somebody mention that the time I was doing that bit of plunge milling before, it was because I was using an end mill, but I was using the type of mill with the slightly angled flutes and the little hole in the centre so that it will clear the swath, whatever you want to call it, as you're drilling. That way, you see, I can go right down and I'll have a flat end here instead of the point of the drill going further than I want. Alright, so let me set this up in the mill. Well, there's the milling done. All I'm going to do now is measure down there and put my hole in. And do you know something? As I was doing this, it struck me, I didn't need to offset that at all. I was thinking about having it set away from the bottom of the tank to get the clip on, but of course I've got a space underneath the tank so the clip can go on the bottom. Too much to think about, you see. Alright, so let me mark this and then we'll do a hole. Right, I've got this marked up. So we're going to go down 1/2 inch. Seems to be it. Hit the hole there. We're done. Okay, you can't really see that, can you? So hold on a second. There we go. And there's the completely finished item. I rounded off that bit to make it look a bit better. Also, actually, when I turned this back, I didn't turn it back right up to there. I put a little shoulder on it to make it a bit stronger. So if you imagine that's the bottom of the oil tank, that will go on and be welded on, and then that fits on with enough space to get a hose clip round, and the head of the hose clip will be here, and I have enough space under the oil tank to fit that. So now we can cut the bottom piece of the oil tank, because I've got that ready to go.